We're having a conversation with Sara Medlicott. She is master's candidate at the School of Information and Library Science at the Pratt Institute. Sara, what is new in the world of research in the web?
Something that's very exciting to me that I don't think very many people are utilizing are the huge proliferation of digital collections available online right now. There are so many really terrific historic documents like these that traditionally no one could access unless they made the time and effort and paid to come to a rare book room or a library. And so many of these collections are being put online now. So I think those are excellent resources, particularly for students looking to include some primary source documents in their work.
And these collections are for free? Do you need a password? Do you have to pay?
It's a big mix. Often they're free. I know one project I worked on was with the Washington State Library, and that was completely free for anybody that wanted to use it. And I know you're working on a project here, digitizing some documents of
with the Internet Archives, and yes. Mm-hmm. And also Henry Hazlitt's documents too, mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so I think it really depends, but with just a very little bit of searching, you can usually find quite a few that are free.
What does a little bit of searching mean? I mean, what tools do you use? What does it mean?
Good question. I mean, obviously everybody starts with Google, and I think the real question is, how do you evaluate the sources once you find them and once they come up? Checking to make sure that the information you find is current and is accurate and is relevant is something that I feel like a lot of people skip over now.
Usually, you mentioned that usually one begins with Google, but what other instruments, what other tools do students have to begin searches?
I always suggest for students to start in their library. I think that librarians are an excellent and hugely underutilized resource. We've had training, we've had experience, and we'll be able to point you in the right direction. But for someone that doesn't want to take the time out of their day to come to the library, one really great resource is the Internet Public Library. I think it's ipl.org. And if you go to that, it's a collection of resources compiled and evaluated by librarians. They make sure that all the information is accurate and useful before they post anything. So everything on there has the information expert seal of approval.
What is the usual, do you get questions from students? Do students approach you and ask you for help? What are the usual issues?
My situation is kind of unique because the Pratt Institute, where I go to school and work, is largely an art school. We have a lot of different art-related programs there. And something that I frequently get is people that need a piece of art. They need to either evaluate something for art history course, or they need to use an image in some sort of graphic design project. So that's a little bit unique from most situations, I would say, but it's also something that we have widely available in physical form in our library, but there are also a lot of great resources for finding free, accessible open source images online, like the Flickr Commons is a great one, and if you have access to a password, things like ArtStore have a lot of great images. So I would say that's probably my most common request at the Pratt reference desk.
And when people are looking for information or doing research now online, when students are doing research, I bet that it is very different now than, let's say, 15 years ago, mm-hmm. 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. Can you share with us how is it different?
Oh, absolutely. I think that the need for information is always the same, and that will never change. People always need to find materials, be they print or digital, and people always need to find a way to interpret them and understand and interact with the materials. And that's really the role of the librarian or the information professional, is to sort of help understand these materials. I know now in one of my classes, one of our assignments was to go to the main branch of the New York Public Library because there was a reference work that is only available there. In the whole city, you can't get it online, you can't get it at any other library, and everybody was groaning and nobody wanted to make the effort to go down there. So I think the biggest change is we're getting lazier and lazier with each generation. People want to be able to do their entire project from their bed with their pajamas on.
Well, that's great. I mean, now you have everything in your house, everything in your desk, at the office. In many cases, you don't even have to
It's true.
get out of bed.
It's true.
Now, have you ever had a particularly difficult search? Something that posed for you a real challenge?
Oh, yes. I had to do a project about the United Nations, and their website is spectacular. It is a huge wealth of resources. I should say the content is spectacular. The layout and design is a complete mess. It's a total disaster. I would need one little piece of information and I would spend hours and hours wading through it. And I actually had the opportunity to see one of their librarians speak. And he said, oh, we never get rid of an old search tool if it doesn't work. We just create a new one. And so at this point, I think they have 4 or 5 different catalog search mechanisms for the materials that they produce. So that was a big challenge for me, but it just took a lot of time and dedication.
And finally, you are offering at Francisco Marroquin, you're working at Francisco Marroquin with the library. What is the nature of your work in the library?
I'm doing several different things. The first is that I'm doing training sessions for the reference team. And I'm going to be doing training sessions for the circulation team as well. I've had some meetings with different departments and I'm just getting an idea for how everything operates here and trying to help in whatever capacity I can. I will also be doing a series of seminars called Beyond Wikipedia, and we're going to explore different ways to do research using digital materials that maybe aren't the first thing that come to mind when starting a project.
What kind of materials are those?
Well, we're going to do 4 sessions, and I think the main thing that I've been hearing from people who work here is they're getting a lot of students that just take the first thing that they find and don't spend time with deep searching. So we're going to take some time to look at the paid databases available through the library and some other free resources available online, and how to, most importantly to me, is how to evaluate all these materials and determine whether they have scholarly relevance and if they will be useful to whatever research you may be doing.
Well, Sara, thank you very much for sharing with us your expertise and your ideas. And thank you too